In a clash between your lifelong bond with your mom and your commitment to your spouse, who should take priority, your wife or your mother? Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Are you ready for a real-life drama that's straight out of a soap opera? Okay, let's dive in.
My 30M mom, 59F, hates my wife, 30F. Is going no contact the only option? Long story, so I'll summarize. My wife and I have married for 8 years and have been together for nearly 10. At the start of our relationship, my wife and my mom got along great. My mom even told me that she thinks I found the one. Things started to change after we got engaged. My wife chose not to take my mom's wedding dress shopping and took her grandmother, her mother, and her 2 maids of honor. My mom also said the bridal showers made her and my sister feel very uncomfortable because my wife comes from money and my family was lower middle class. Even more background. My mom grew up dirt poor and suffered a lot of abuse growing up, which I think gave her a lot of undiagnosed mental health issues. My mom told me all of this and I was able to communicate this to my wife. My wife did her best to make her and my family feel included in the wedding, and I think overall it went very well and I thought things were great. For years, things stood like that, just fine. My wife felt she had to walk on some eggshells not to offend my mom, but she was capable and willing to do this. However, one time during a family trip, my mom broke down and told me she was having a hard time letting go of me and how we used to be best friends and now she doesn't know me. This was 5 years into my marriage, and I told her I thought it was strange how it was just now coming up. But alas, things changed for the worse when my wife got pregnant with our child, M2. Once we announced that she was pregnant, my mom made it known that she was going to buy a pack of diapers every time my dad got paid. My mom has always been a stay-at-home mom. A few months into the pregnancy, my wife let it slip that her mom, my MIL, was planning on a big diaper drop. Once my mom heard this, she broke down again about how her gifts are never enough and that she feels like my wife and I feel that she's not going to be good enough for our future child. Also, a few months after, at lunch, we got on the topic of the birthing room. I told my mom, dad, and my wife that I was comfortable with whatever my wife wanted. My wife said she wanted me, her mom, and her cousin in the room. My mom immediately busted out into tears about how she wasn't good enough to be in the room for her first grandchild. My wife explained that she would just be more comfortable with her mom, me, and her cousin, and my mom responded that when she birthed me, her MIL, my grandmother, was there in the room and she was uncomfortable but knew it was a special time for my grandmother. My wife eventually apologized and they reconciled to let bygones be bygones. This conversation turned out to be moot anyways because with COVID restrictions at the time, I was the only person allowed in. Fast forward to the night before my son's first birthday. We're eating dinner and my wife is showing my mom that she always squishes his blueberries before feeding them to my son. My mom yells, "Do you guys think I'm stupid?" I've raised children before. This blew up into a huge fight. Once again about my mom feeling that she's never going to be good enough to be around my son and how me and my wife make everyone feel uncomfortable with our strict parenting techniques. She also said a lot of things about my wife personally, even calling her a snobby bitch at some point, and pretty much ruined my son's first birthday. A few months later, my mom apologized for saying all of those things before my son's birthday but didn't exactly apologize for what she said. My wife did not forgive her, rightfully so, but said she could still come around because my wife did not want to ask me to cut my mom out of our lives. Fast forward once again to a few weeks ago. My MIL came in to watch my son when I was traveling for work because my wife, who's a nurse and works 12-hour shifts, cannot pick my son up from daycare. My mom gets her feelings hurt and says, "I just never feel like I'm good enough." This one was on me because I had previously told my mom she could watch my son when I went on this trip. I had to travel again a few weeks later, and we told her she could watch my son then. She came in on a Friday and was supposed to stay a week. Things were great for the first few days, but then the day before I'm supposed to leave for work, we have another incident. My wife was planning on making lunch, but my mom said she was going to go get a tea from a fast food chain. I asked my mom to just get me a snack, so I can still eat my wife's lunch, and my mom comes home with my snack, my drink, and a full combo for herself. For context, my mom does have a medical issue where she needs to eat or she has issues. My mom explained that she cannot wait that long to eat between meals, but my wife felt like she did not want to eat her cooking and was pretty passive-aggressive the rest of the day. Eventually, my mom catches on that my wife is upset and calls her out for not talking to her. This starts a big fight and my mom goes and stays in a hotel but still watches my son while I'm gone. I come back early from my work trip to minimize the time that my wife and my mom have to be alone. My mom calls me a few days later and tells me to not talk to her if my wife is around. She also says her biggest regret is that my friend introduced me and my wife, and she wishes that I picked a wife that could get along better with the family. She says for my sake, because she knows my wife gives me hell, she can exit the picture and my wife can have what she always wanted me to herself and my mom out of the picture. My wife has made some mistakes, but I would say 80% of the issues come from my mom. I have told both my wife and my mom that I support my wife in this, but obviously this is still tough on me to not have a relationship with my mother. What should I do?
Now, let's hear what others have to say about this intense situation. What advice do people have for someone stuck in such a tough spot?
Your mom's guilt trips. She's trying to force you to choose between your wife and her. My wife eventually apologized for not having Emil in the birthing room. No. She had nothing to apologize for. Most women want their mom and sometimes a close friend there, not their Emil. Supporting your wife would have been shutting down your mom trying to guilt her on it. Clearly you did not, since your wife apologized for doing nothing wrong. What other times have you not stood up for your wife to your mom? She says for my sake, because she knows my wife gives me hell. She can exit the picture and my wife can have what she always wanted me to herself and my mom out of the picture. Do you realize how incredibly wrong her statement is? She gave you an ultimatum to pick her or your wife, while trying to make herself the victim of your evil wife. The reality of her statement is the reverse. Your mom is the one who wants you to herself. She even told you that years ago. Your poor wife, dealing with Emil deliberately trying to undermine your marriage. And successfully at times it sounds. You need to distance yourself from your mom. She's trying to ruin your marriage. And if you don't push back and support your wife 100% and stop contact with your mom, you won't have a marriage. Count your blessings that your wife has put up with so much already. Best wishes to you and wife and son. And good luck with your mom. My kids would have shut me down years ago if I pulled that stuff with them. Everything you have described has been my exact experience with my own mother and wife. Even the "we were best friends" line, lol. Let me give you some insight on why your mother is acting like this. She is so used to being the matriarch and center of attention that she cannot fathom that the dynamic has now changed. I'm sure you love your mother, but now, your priority is your wife and kid, and unfortunately, your mom can't deal with it. What's even worse is, she also expected your wife to look to her as the head of the household, hence why she was offended at not being asked to go dress shopping. What she fails to see is that family dynamics change, and sometimes that's okay. It's not personal, but to your mother, anything that challenges, in her mind, her status or goes against what she personally wants will be seen as a slight against her. This happened to me, and it got ugly. Unfortunately, I did have to go no contact after my mother made ugly comments to my wife and myself. This lasted for years. My mom learned the hard way that she is not the center of the universe, and the fallout really humbled her. We're okay now, but it took a long time for her to recognize her behavior was out of hand. I hope things work out with you and your family. My advice, talk things out, but make it clear that her behavior will not be tolerated and no contact is a real possibility. Trust me, she will be angry and will most likely decide to stop contact, but if you stick to your decision, she will eventually see that she needs to change. 80%? MF, your mother is fully the problem. 100%, not a doubt in the world. You should have put your mom in her fucking place long ago. Long ago. I would have told her she's being entirely manipulative, abusive, selfish, and quite frankly unhinged. You should have told her that your choice is your choice, and if she can't respect your wife, she needs to remove herself. You never ever should have let it get this far to, let me guess, keep the peace. Peacekeepers are enablers usually, and that's exactly what you are by not telling your mom she seeks therapy for herself, and stop this BS, or she really won't be in your kids' lives because she has no business caring for them if she has such disdain for their mother. Be better. It sounds like your wife was always gracious to her in the beginning, even if she needed to draw some boundaries, but your mother's insecurities overwhelmed the situation. Your mom has a persecution complex, and she also has issues about how to express her emotions in a way that isn't destructive. This has been going on for years, and it sounds like your wife has finally had enough of your mom's bullshit and her emotional disorders. To be honest, I'm surprised that this whole thing didn't blow up years ago. Your wife is not the problem here. I'm sure she does have many issues with your mom now, but they are all the result of your mom treating her like shit for so many years. She has to deal with this crazy, volatile person in her life, and I'm sure your wife is angry about that and resentful. I don't think you have to cut off contact with your mother. I think you can see her and talk to her, but I think you need to give your wife a break. I'd say give your wife at least 3 to 4 months without having your mother at your house, or without her having to interact with your mother. She needs some time off. She's been dealing with this for years, and it's a lot. Based on what you posted, it doesn't seem like your wife would have an issue with you having one-on-one contact with your mother as long as she didn't have to hear about it or get involved. I think the only real issue can be boiled down to this question. Do you want your child to grow up seeing his grandmother disrespect his mother? I think your wife is a big girl and she can navigate the complications of bad in-laws, so long as you are vocally and proactively on her side. But she shouldn't need to deal with it obviously, but she's a big girl and has demonstrated she can and is willing to. But again, obviously it sucks for her to need to deal with it at all. But your child is a child, and as such, they won't understand the dynamics of adult social interactions or appreciate that grandma is unwell or that this adult authority figure, their grandma, is even wrong about their mom. It'd just be confusing and unfair. So, that being the case, is that what you want your kid exposed to? I'd make that clear to your mom when you go low contact with her. That's what I'd do.
It's clear that family dynamics can get really complicated, but hearing different viewpoints can really help. Now it's your turn to answer. What do you do when the person who raised you and the person you chose to spend your life with can't get along? Thanks for sticking with us through this intense story. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments. Until next time.